good to be with you tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to come each time. It's been many years. I think it's been 3 years since I've been here. COVID, us being in Asia for 6 months, opening a new safe house. Some of you probably new and don't know what we do, but we take in young girls that are of vulnerable age, that are in danger of becoming sex slaves and being sold to the United States or to some nation. It's pretty bad. And you look here at human trafficking, it's on the increase, a big, big increase right now. And it disturbs me so much because I know so much more about trafficking than I can actually tell anyone about. And some days I wish I could forget a lot of it because it's very disturbing. Because of the open border at the southern part of the United States, the mule, a mule is a person who brings a trafficked person across the Rio Grande River. Well, right now they're doing it free of charge. There's no charge when they come up there, and they just come on into the United States. Most of them will end up that are trafficked either in Florida or California. These two states have more of the girls that are trafficked than any other states in the United States. But just the number alone is staggering now compared to the last time that I was here. There's a reason why trafficking is becoming the international crime that is the easiest to start. Startup cost is minimal, the minimal risk. See, the mafia for many years has been primarily one of the major drug dealers all over the world. But the mafia has said, hey, too many of our people are getting caught with drugs, so we'll just switch over to prostitution because very few are ever convicted in cases of trafficking and prostitution. At least there are some that are convicted and go to prison, but it is much easier. So the mafia has switched over to trafficking, and more we see them involved. Now, we're working with the girls in Asia. We're working in Nepal, Laos, Thailand, the Philippines, and Thailand, and I mentioned Thailand and Laos. These are the countries where we have 21 safe houses where we're caring for about 3,000 girls. That means every day we have to provide food, clothing, shelter, Bibles, everything that they need in order to survive. And we keep them as long as we possibly can. Sometimes the girls in Nepal, we have a problem. The arranged marriages are just horrible. That's all I can say. They will come to the safe house and say, well, we've arranged a marriage for our daughter. We'll take her to him. And it ends up it's an old man. It's whoever has the most money. That's the one that's going to take the girl and marry her. She has no choice but to leave the safe house and go marry this older man so that her parents can get the money. So basically, she's being sold. She's being sold into slavery. Thailand is organized crime, includes the police and much of the government. I can remember one day that we were driving around in Thailand and there was an automobile accident. And my driver said, don't ever call the police when there's an automobile accident because all you have to do is pay them off or pay some kind of money, a bribe to get off of the problem. So he said, you see the policeman there? That's the mafia in uniform. That's awful when you see a policeman and think that's the mafia in uniform. But I found that to be true. So the young girls come from Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, China, and Myanmar, primarily through the northern part of the southeastern China, southeastern Asia, and they end up in Bangkok, Thailand. In Bangkok, Thailand, they will go to a hospital where they will have an enhancement surgery And the girls are glad to have the enhancement surgery because it means they're going to be in more movies and they're going to have marry a rich man. And all the lies that are told from the recruiter. A recruiter will make about $300,000 a year just finding these girls and selling them to the mafia or to a pimp that will operate and use them the rest of their lives. They have the most horrible life that you can ever imagine. So here's what we do for the girls. By the way, this shows why the sex slave market is so good. The income is the highest income of anything in the trafficking area. But we provide them a safe place to stay. We provide them Bibles. We provide their clothing. We teach them a trade. Or if they are very good students, we will take them all the way through university. We will educate them so that they will get a good job. And then they will become totally independent. Because the recruiter will go for those girls, the poorest girls that have less than a fifth grade education, because he can fool them. They've never had a job. They never had any education. They don't know any better than to go with them. And sometimes the father would say, go with this man. This man's going to get you a job. And this, you find this hard to believe, but some of the fathers, or even the mothers, would say, go with this man and be a prostitute because you make more money, you can own a car, and you can help send us money back home. Isn't that unbelievable that a parent would say that to one of his children? It's just hard to understand. This gives you an idea of the girls that we have in a safe house. This is the typical greeting. You fold your hands and speak to the person. It's the same thing that we do when we shake hands. And we were glad we weren't shaking hands during the time of COVID. That's our sewing school. We teach the girls to sew, and they get a business, and they've been very successful with their businesses, and they make enough to live on. Some of them get married and have successful families, and that pleases us very much when that happens. That's one of the Bible studies. We don't have enough chairs at any of the safe houses for everyone to have a chair, so they sit on rugs and study the Bible. And it's a constant problem for me to keep enough Bibles. We have to go into Kathmandu to get the Bibles, then we have to drive all the way back to Norianga, where we have the main preacher training school. Everything is handled out of Norianga. Then it'd be 12 hours to one of the safe houses, 4 hours to another safe house. It's a long distance. It's over a big area. And I think we have, we'll see it in just a minute. There's another Bible class where they're studying. There's where they've just gotten their new Bibles, and they're very happy to have a Bible. That's a constant problem for me to keep enough Bibles from Kathmandu to Norianga for the girls that we bring in that are new. Baptisms, we have baptisms on a continuous basis. In the past few weeks, we've had 5 baptisms. This is a picture of some of those baptisms. By the way, the water is cold. It's snow that has melted in the mountains and run down. They don't mind the cold water. They've never had a warm shower. They don't know what a warm shower would be like. They're used to cold water, and so there's no problem with the baptism. So in the Philippines, we have one safe house. We have 12 girls, and 4 of those girls have been baptized into Christ. Now, I will speed up the process of going through this because I want to give you time at the end of the presentation to ask questions. I find that many times I take too much time, and there are questions that people won't have answers, and I want to give you time to answer. Laos is the only communist country where we're operating. We're registered legally in Thailand, Nepal, and the Philippines. That means we're like in the United States, it'd be called a 501c3 nonprofit foundation. So we're legally registered in all the countries except Laos. Because it is a communist country, we cannot register legally, and we work what we call working under the radar so that we're not in trouble with the government. There's some of the girls in Laos ready for the first day of school to go back to school, and they're back in school. We have a farm in Laos where we produce food, as much possible food as we can, to feed all the girls in the Laos, three safe houses in Laos. And the further north in Luang Prabang is the place where there are the very poor girls. And there are more opportunities for us to save girls in Laos than any of the other countries. Now, we have more girls, of course, in Nepal. Nepal is the third poorest nation in the world. It's similar to Haiti. If you know what Haiti's like, that's about the same thing in Nepal. There's part of our garden that you see where we raise vegetables and fruits to feed the girls. Then we come to Thailand, and Thailand, of course, is a democratic government with a king. The king has no authority. It's about like the Queen or King of England. It's just a symbol. And we have 13 girls and about 11 that have been baptized into Christ. And here's a group of the girls at Mukdahan, and they're in their uniform, ready to go to school. Every morning they get together in a round circle, and they have a prayer before they leave to go to school. And that's a routine every morning. This is a building that I found. I'm 86 years old, and the construction trade doesn't fit in well with my age. So I've been looking for buildings, and I was in Chiang Mai, and I'd already made a survey of Chiang Mai and saw that there was a need to have a safe house. Because of Myanmar, a lot of girls were coming into that area, coming across the border, sneaking into Thailand to get away from the most oppressive government that you could possibly imagine. So here's the girls that are in the location there. And I bought the house and the lot next door. Of course, we want to raise as much food as we possibly can. So we converted that to a garden where we raise food. And you see the covering over the plants in some areas. If we don't put a covering over the plants, the sun will just kill them during the summer. Now, we were there, let me see, we arrived in Thailand in October to remodel and rebuild another house that I found. I'll show you in a few minutes. But the temperatures are very nice during the winter, but during the summer, when we left to come back to the United States, I think it was above 100 degrees, about like what they're having in Texas now. This is the latest safe house. We actually lived in the safe house in order to keep the costs down while we were remodeling the safe house. And this is a safe house that has 24 beds for girls, and I'll show you some of the pictures. That's the living room. I had my office there in the front of that living room. That's the side, and the most beautiful plants, 5 mango trees, just loaded with mangoes. We had all the mangoes we wanted to eat. They've been eating mangoes. We had about 10 banana plants. Of course, most people don't know. Once a banana plant produces a stalk of bananas, you cut the plant down. It will not produce again unless you cut it down and let it start growth all the way again, new from the ground up. So we had plenty of bananas. That's the dining room and kitchen area. And I would say it's probably one of the best safe houses that we have. The one in Chiang Mai is also very good. Safe houses in Nepal are just minimal. On many of the safe houses, the girls just sleep on a mat on the ground. That's all that they're used to. Recently, we had a drought, just so dry they could not grow any gardens. This is in the Himalayan mountains, of course. We have a lot of congregations in the mountain areas, and the very poor Christians live there. They did not have any food. So this is a mule train where we use the mule train to carry the rice to the congregations, and then the congregation will distribute the rice to all the different members. And that's the way we get the rice out to the people. And it's amazing. We only help the Christians, of course. But when they get their rice, the Christians will share their rice with their neighbors. And you know what happens? We have many, many baptisms because of, don't tell me how much you know until you show how much you care. And once that happens, then the people will listen to the Bible study. We give God the honor, the praise, the glory for the opportunity to be His servants, saving lives and souls. Is there anything that is more important than saving the life of a beautiful young girl and giving her an opportunity for eternal life in heaven? That's the reason I love the work and the reason I'm doing it at 86 years old. But this morning, I brought one man. I have 3 men that are in the process of replacing me. And somebody said, well, 3 can't do your job. And I appreciate the compliment, but I think there are. And he was with me at Lone Cedar. I wish he could be here tonight. He's from Greenville, Texas, and he's going back to Greenville now. Another man that has worked for me for 20 years in China and in Asia is now working also full-time, and he'll be going to Asia so that I don't have to make the 48-hour trip flying and stopping and going from airport to airport. It's a long, hard trip to go. This is the last time we flew from Atlanta to Qatar to Bangkok. Couldn't get into Bangkok, so we had to go to an island close by to Bangkok. Then we flew from Bangkok into Bangkok. Then we flew from Bangkok to Udon. That is about 48 hours of flight time with no time for sleep, no time for rest. So that makes it kind of hard on an old man. Now I'm giving you the opportunity to ask any questions, and I know that you must have some questions. Now, there's a problem. I have now hearing aids. They're not worth 10 cents. Sometimes I want to take them out and just stomp them. So I may have trouble hearing the questions that you ask, but I'll try to get someone. Ricky, you can translate or get the information to me on the questions that you ask. But you must have some questions that I can answer. That's the reason I went through the presentation as fast as possible, so that you would have the time that I could give you any details you want to know. Now, some of it is not appropriate to be given, especially since there are children in the audience. I cannot tell you many things about a slave market and what happens in a slave market, because it's so horrible that I don't want anyone to have nightmares. Okay, I'm ready for your questions. Okay.
Could you tell us about individually sponsoring girls?
About what?
The individual sponsoring. How we as individuals can sponsor.
Oh, okay. We have, I don't know, probably 100 people in the Churches of Christ who each pay $30 for a girl, and that pays for her expenses for 1 month. So we have 100 members of the Lord's Church who each one sponsors a girl. I know you receive reports on the girl that we send you a picture, update you on how she's doing in school, how is her health. We have a lot of girls in Nepal in particular that have very poor health. They've never had any medical care in their lives, so they have poor health. So we will let you know if they're sick, let you know when they have other needs, and we will get those reports to you. Every 3 months you get a report with a picture. Ricky, you get copies of the reports. Okay, another question was in the back.
Can you go into how the girls are rescued?
I couldn't hear you.
Can you go into how the girls are rescued?
How they're rescued? Well, we go to the area where they're living, and they're living in a shack. It looks like a barn at the very best. We have an evaluation sheet that we go down. We want to know a lot of information about the girls. We cannot take in girls that are mentally hurt in some way, because we don't have facilities to handle the girls like that. But we do process them. We ask if they've ever been involved in trafficking. We ask if they're virgin or not. We want to know as many details as we can so that we can care for them properly. So we evaluate them in much detail. We take a picture of the house where they're living and send that usually to the people who were sponsor the girls, so that they can see that the horrible conditions they were living in and what a good condition are when they get to the safe house. Did I answer your question okay? Halfway? Okay. Okay. Okay.
I saw in the slide presentation that you said the average age of the girls is from 8 to 16. How old is the youngest girl that you say?
Okay, we take in girls between the age of 8 years old and 20. After 20, the value of the girl goes down. Not many girls are sold who are older than 20. Now, usually in the past, we set the limit at bringing girls 10 years old to 20. But after COVID, a lot of things changed after COVID. In fact, the trafficking switched to the internet to a great degree for a period of time there, and all the trafficking was handled on the internet. And we found out that I don't know how to describe this. You know, in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Bahrain, all those countries, Qatar, have what they, as wealthy sheiks. They have all the money you can imagine. They are looking for the girl. The younger the girl, the higher the price that will be paid for her on the slave market, if he buys her on the slave market. Or if he goes to a recruiter to get the girl, then he will want a girl 8 years old and a virgin, and he will pay $20,000 US for that 8-year-old girl. And he will basically destroy her life. That's all I can say, just totally destroy her life. So between 8 years old and 20, we don't bring in a lot of girls in 18, 19, 20-year-old. Most of them are beyond the point where the sheik would want to buy them. The sheik in Saudi Arabia will have as many as 20 girls in his harem, and he'll be constantly replacing the older girls, kicking them out, and replacing them with younger girls. That's just the situation, which is horrible, but that's just the way it is. So money's not an issue. They don't care. They pay any amount of money to get the girl that they want. Other questions? Did I answer enough?
So you're saying, sir, that 8 years old, 8 to 10 is the popular age. They want them younger. Younger is better to them.
Let me understand you.
Younger is better. Younger is what they want.
Yes, the younger the...
8 to 10 is a real popular.
Yes, there is the average age where most of them are trafficked at the younger age. They're more vulnerable too because they don't know much. They don't have no education. They've been living in poverty all their lives, and they're promised that there'll be a nanny or something in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, or one of the Arab countries, which is a big lie, just to get them. Okay, next question.
Brother Brown, I'd like to say if anyone would like to see how the report works, Ruth and I get reports from, every 3 months, like he says, we get an email, and he shows the girl, the conditions and everything, and it's rewarding to know, that you're helping something so good.
Okay, next question. I left you plenty of time. Okay.
I have just a question about the men that you mentioned that would be helping to carry on the work. And so currently there's three men that are.
3 men. Have 1 man in Houston, Texas, who is going to be raising the funds in the Texas area. We find that where there's oil, there's a lot of money. So he raised $80 million for the company he was with before. He's now retired from that company, and he told me he wants to work for me free of charge. So I'll let him take care of Texas. I did not bring him for the meeting yesterday, but I did bring in another man that worked for me for 20 years in China. We had 600 orphans we cared for in China, but China has just closed down. It's unbelievable. We can't work in China anymore. But he worked for me in China during the time we were doing open heart surgery and we did over 1,000 cleft palate surgeries and close to 500 open heart surgeries for young children that are born with congenital heart disease. In fact, they will die unless they have the surgery. So he was in charge of that work. He's working for me full time. He lives in Memphis, Tennessee, and he was at Lone Cedar this morning also. So those three men, I know that they can take my place. Now, I don't plan to retire. That's not in my vocabulary. I tell people, well, I'm going to work a half a day on the day before my funeral. It may not work out that way, but I will not retire. Now, hearing aids, I just started using hearing aids about a year ago. I'd rather have one of those big horns that you stick in your ear. I think it would be better than the hearing aids. Okay, other questions? Okay.
Do you have any trouble finding house parents? Are they from the areas where the girls are from, or are they from the United States? The people that keep the girls?
Okay, they're all Christians in the local area. For every safe house, like most of the safe houses, the largest number of safe houses are in Nepal, and every safe house has a minister that has graduated from the preacher training school because he has to teach these girls the Bible. I wish it were daily, but they because of the schoolwork and the homework that they have to do, we can't have Bible classes every day, but we do have at least one Bible class or two Bible classes a week for all the girls. So these men and their wives are, of course, also important. And they receive a salary, not a very high salary, because they're dedicated in serving the Lord, and they can do that by serving these girls. So we have one safe house where we don't have a man. The director of the School of Preaching, his mother is one of our safe house mothers, because his father passed away. All other safe houses have a minister that works with the girls. And one of the biggest jobs is keeping enough Bibles. It's just a tremendous job. I got new girls coming. I guess probably as many as 5 or 10 new girls a week sometimes come in. We have to have Bibles for the new girls as they come to the safe house. Okay, other questions?
You mentioned that at a certain age, the girls get kicked out of wherever they're being held. What happens to them after that?
Oh, you don't want to know. The sale of organs, I'll just tell you that's what happens. That is a big, big business, in Asia especially. Okay?
What's the process at the end, what's the end game at the safe house? Do they
Okay.
age out after a certain point, graduate? What happens for the end of that?
Okay. After they're going through the sewing school, and the sewing school, we call it tailoring school, they make clothing. You see, in Nepal, the people are very poor, mountain areas. They can't get on a bus and go into Kathmandu and buy clothing. They have to buy the clothing that is made by someone in their village. So after our girls have learned to sew, we give them a sewing machine, we give them some material, we give them 3 months of their additional support so they can live until they can get their business established. We give them a measuring tape and pair of scissors. They're in business, and they've been very successful. Now, if the girls have a better base education and are willing to go on to higher learning, we pay for their going on to university. But once they get to that point, we don't have to worry about them ever being trafficked, because we teach. See, these people in rural areas, they don't know about trafficking. They don't know the danger that their daughters are in. They have no communication, no TV, no television or anything in some of these rural mountain areas. And yet we have congregations of the Lord's church that we're feeding right now, about 1,000 families in the area of the Himalayan mountains. But these girls know about trafficking, and they are not going to be trafficked by anyone. An educated college girl with good intelligence is not in danger. Now, if the girls leave and the father marries them off to another man, they're still in danger, because it's not a marriage based on love. It's a marriage based on how much the father will receive for the girl becoming this old man's concubine.
So with that, do they go back, like when they go back home, or are they helping to spread knowledge of trafficking and saying, hey,
Yes, we have what we call an awareness program, where we go into all the villages and we distribute brochures telling them about, in their language, telling them about trafficking. And the girls that have completed the sewing school, the tailoring school, we help them set up their business, establish their business, and are successful. And it's been very successful. The girls that have a desire for a higher education, we'll help them with their education all the way. We still have girls in China, and I believe the last girl in China has graduated from university. Is that right, Pat? Okay. We took her in, I don't know how many years ago. And we took her all the way through the elementary school, junior high school, university, and now she's graduated. And she was in one of our orphanages. Now, these girls will not have a problem of trafficking ever again. It's just the ones that have no education, that live in poverty. See, the recruiter is looking for the same girls that we're looking for. And sometimes that presents a problem because they think, well, you're going to take my girl, you're going to sell my girl. And that's not the case. We have to convince them by taking other girls with us to go to their house to show them, and videos and movies and pictures of our safe house is what happens, to convince them, we're not going to sell your daughter, we're going to give your daughter an education, we're going to take care of her, give her. They've never had health care, they have lice, they have worms. You just can't imagine the people that live in severe poverty, the things that we have to do to get them healthy and stable. Okay, other questions?
What happens to the males, the boys that are same age?
About boys?
Yeah.
Okay. We do not take in boys.
Yeah.
There are a few, or this primarily only occurs in Laos. In Laos, the family expects the boy to go out and sell himself on the street in order to make money to feed the family. It's accepted by the community. It's accepted by the family. It's his responsibility. And that's a very low percentage. Less than 3% of all trafficking are males. The large number, we have to address the larger number. And there are 2 organizations I know in northern Laos that are working with young boys. But that is a difficult thing, because it's ingrained in the society, it's in the family, that the boy will be a prostitute and that he will make the money for the family to live. Because they have 8 or 10 children in each family in northern Laos. They can't feed their children. We had one particular case where the family had enough money to put I don't know, how many girls was it, Pat? Do you remember? 6 girls on a bus from northern Laos to Vientiane, Laos. And we don't know, we've only found one of those girls. We got the one girl and got her to the safe house. She's in a video, and you can see this on YouTube. She tells about how she had to sleep in a room with a whole bunch of men. We don't know what happened to the boys. Possibly the thing that could happen to the boys You know, you've heard of cockfighting. Well, they have young boys that fight until they would just about kill each other. And they bet on these boys. That happens in Laos. And that's probably what happened to the boy. That's the only way he could make any money and live. It's a bad situation. And I feel for the poor young boys that are born in that area. But that's northern Laos, not in Thailand. I've never heard of it in Thailand at all. Okay, other questions? You still have some time. Okay.
Do these girls that leave, who've been baptized, have opportunity to go to church?
Oh, yes. Yes. We follow up with them to see if they are attending regularly the worship services and attending and taking part in the church society, the groups, the social activities. Of course, I'm sure we lose some. Some of them, see, we are working with girls, and they're going to marry boys that are non-Christians many times. Now, some of our girls have married some of the preacher training students, and that's great. I'm really happy. I wish we had more men in the preacher training school for the girls to marry, but that's not the case, especially when we have 210 in Nepal, and we only have about 20 young men in the preacher training school. So, need more boys, Christian boys. In fact, I'm losing one of my best workers right now in Viet Thanh. She's met a young man in Frankfort, Kentucky, online, dating online. He came to Viet Thanh, Laos, that's the capital city of Laos, to meet her about 3 weeks ago. And they'd already fallen in love online, and now she's going to marry him. But he's going to come to Viet Thanh, Laos, and preach and teach. But that's dangerous. We use coded words in our emails that goes into the communist country. Like for the church, we say that the family. For God, we say capital F, the Father, or the Son, the assembly. We don't ever use any words like you would use if you were writing to another Christian in the United States, because all the emails are censored by the communist government, and it's a problem. Okay, another question? Okay.
So you said that you have to convince the family to let the girl stay in the safe house?
Yes,
That's the only way.
that's right. The family has to sign that they're giving us the custody of the girl to take care of her. And then if they come get the girl for an arranged marriage, they have to sign that they're taking back the responsibility, so that we're no longer responsible. But I hate when that happens. I remember one case where her brother, her parents were dead. Many of them are orphans, and they're more vulnerable because they don't have any support system of a family. So if a recruiter comes in and he finds that she's an orphan and poor, he can get her very easily by buying her gifts, buying her clothing, taking her out for food, different things, anything that he can do to influence her to go with him to Bangkok. Okay, other questions? You see, I could not possibly cover all this in a presentation, so I decided I'd tried it in several congregations, letting them know more about the work. No more questions? Okay. If you think of something else, okay.
Is Bangkok the only place in Thailand that you have a safe house?
Ricky?
Bangkok, the only place in Thailand where you have a safe house.
No. Our safe houses in Thailand are in Udon and in Mukdahan. We don't have safe houses in Bangkok.
Okay, well, I was in Bangkok, and they had a thing going outside on the highway to Cambodia. They had a shack built up, and they had painting on them, just like off Vegas, and that it was called New Land. And I went there one time, and I wish I hadn't, because
translator.
He was telling,
Did you understand?
now, he, Brother Brown, he was saying that he was stationed over there at one time,
Oh, okay.
and that a papa son tried to sell his daughter to him for an hour.
Oh, okay, yes. Oh, yes. That happens all the time.
The police were corrupt
Yes.
in all these places, and it was full of girls 8, 10, 12 years old. And the GIs were going in there, and I couldn't believe my own people were doing that. But anyway, so.
It happens every day, every day. You can buy a girl for just no money. It's just unbelievable. $50 would buy a girl. And you pay the man, and he said, well, you can take her home if you want to.
Well, I didn't know if you had any safe houses in, like around Sodom or Food House.
Our safe houses are safe and have a wall all the way around them and wire across the top. We know they're going to be safe there. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to let you know about our work. I appreciate the congregation being involved individually and as the congregation in supporting the work. You're part of God's team in Asia, and that's very important work. And like I was telling you, I don't know of anything that I could do. I've been in the mission field since 1984. That's when we first started, and we were self-supporting. And we've been self-supporting almost all the time. There was one opportunity in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, where the church was having a lot of problems. They finally convinced me to leave the Caribbean where we were working and go to Montreal to get that church back in order. And we did it, and it was successful. Had about 100 baptisms during the period of time that we worked to get the church. The church had 5 languages. We had Ashanti, we had English, had French, had Ghanaian, and let's see, what was the last? English. We had 5 services every Sunday in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And the congregation is called Lachine Church of Christ. I don't know how many of you are all members of the Lord's church. I hope that everyone here is a Christian and been baptized into Christ and serving Him. But this morning I delivered this sermon to Lone Cedar, and the title of my sermon was Lost Souls. We as individual Christians are not reaching the very people that are very closest to us, our neighbors, our relatives, and the people that we work with. We're not doing it on an individual basis. Therefore, the churches of Christ are declining, and that's very disturbing to me to know that the churches are declining. The members of the Church of Christ is about 2.3 million worldwide, and half of those congregations are in Africa. In Africa, people say, well, we'll be sending missionaries to the United States sometime soon. I don't doubt but that's the case. We have at least one congregation a month that closes their doors and will not open again. One congregation per month, average. So I hope you're a member of our congregation that is alive, that you keep it alive. And if you're not a Christian, you need to be a Christian and join in the greatest work on the face of this earth. I'm 86 years old, and I'm looking for a trip home. I'm looking forward to going home. And that's something that I've looked for since I was very young in my teens when I was baptized into Christ. And I've tried to serve Him ever since that period of time. You have that same opportunity tonight to become a Christian. And if you have already become a Christian and you need the prayers of the congregation, we'll pray for you. The elders will pray for you. They'll meet with you or do whatever they can to help you in your Christian walk. If you're subject in either way, would you come altogether? We stand and sing.